We've all heard the phrase, "that's a valid point." It's used as a sign of approval for some statement that's just been uttered. It pretty much means what you have said is true, which is appropriate because when we utter statements, we usually do intend for them to be taken as true. But the problem is that, in logic, the word valid does not mean true. Stay tuned to discover why validity does not equate to truth and why the points you make are never valid. The first thing to understand is that statements are only ever true or false. It is arguments that are valid or invalid. Arguments are constructed from various true and false statements called premises that are intended to lead to another true or false statement called a conclusion. The argument is valid if the conclusion can be derived from the premises and invalid if it cannot. Let's try an example. All men are mortal. Socrates is mortal. Therefore, Socrates is a man. What do you think? Is this argument valid or invalid? The answer is invalid. There is no information in the premises that can reliably lead us to the conclusion that Socrates is a man. Premise 1 doesn't tell us that only men are mortal. Socrates might be a cat for all we know. Let's change the example slightly. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, what conclusion are we entitled to put in place here to form a valid argument? Given the information that we have provided in the premises, we can conclude that Socrates is mortal. These are fairly simple examples, and arguments aren't always so easy to assess for validity, but hopefully this gives you a good idea. But here's the insight that I promised you at the beginning pertaining to why valid does not mean true. Valid arguments can lead to false conclusions. Consider this. The moon is made of cheese. I like the taste of cheese. Therefore, I like the taste of the moon. Is this argument valid? Yes, it is. But its conclusion is clearly false because it relies on the false premise that I like the taste of cheese. Only joking. The false premise is obviously that the moon is made of cheese. The point is that validity and truth are distinct. As we have said, truth pertains to facts that we attempt to identify in our statements. Validity pertains to how we form arguments and whether we draw the relevant conclusions from the true and false statements that we put together. Therefore, we can never make a valid point. Although that would have been a good line to end on, there is one more important part of the story, because we still have this nagging question. What gives, man? Well, in logic, we are not only looking to achieve validity when we form an argument. What we are ultimately intending is for our argument to be sound. Soundness is achieved when our argument is valid, all of the premises are true, and therefore the conclusion is also true. Like in the classic argument, all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your comments below.